Purple Heart Homes presents Putting the Pieces Back Together, a forum for veterans and the community to connect. Here are your hosts, veterans John Galena and Brad Borders.
Good morning.
Yeah. Oh, Jinx, you got to buy me a Coke.
I got to buy you a Coke.
Yeah, that's the game of Jinx. Like, if you say something at the exact same time as someone, you have to buy them a Coke.
Oh,
so
yeah?
buy me a Coke.
I might have to add that to
The
book.
rules
It's
of
sort of like me
Jinx.
saying there's still such a thing as call collect.
No, the rules of Jinx are unflinchingly rigid.
You wearing your pager today?
I'm not.
I mean, I know we just watched Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg on the Super Bowl and maybe some flashbacks for all the Gen Xers,
I jumped in on my 90s hip-hop playlist on Spotify.
There you go.
So.
Well, welcome to our February 8th show here. And
No,
that's not
15th.
February 8th. You know what? Your Google Doc is off.
Yeah, well,
it's the 15th. That's
it's
right.
The 15th.
Valentine's Day was yesterday, right?
Valentine's Day was yesterday. I had my
Yeah.
Valentine in the studio with me today.
I know. Well, it's always a pleasure seeing Miss Tammy.
Hey, Miss Tammy.
Thanks for joining us today. We got a special guest today,
We
Miss
do.
Nancy Glass from
Gas.
Sorry, not Glass. I'm all
Right.
tongue-tied up this
You
morning.
are tongue-tied.
Yeah.
You didn't have your
Yeah.
coffee, did you? Or
Well,
had too much?
I told Isaiah I've only had one cup. He said I might need to have 3 more before we get started. But, yeah. It was kind of a long day yesterday.
It was a long day yesterday.
Long and busy.
Yeah, it
But
was.
welcome to Nancy to our show, and we're happy to have you here from Tunnels to Towers. And before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors: Cook's Headers, Welcome Home Vets, Lake Mountain Coffee, and our friend and fellow veteran Dr. Grant Campbell.
Awesome.
Wouldn't be able to do the show without
No,
him.
we
and
could- would not.
Appreciate all the listeners out there. I do want to put out our call-in number for everybody that's listening. I'd like to call in. It's 704-873-1400. Call us in live here in the second half of the show at the WSIC News Studio. We are happy to
1400
take those
is
calls.
the frequency that the radio broadcasts on. That's innovative, right? Having
And
the
also,
same frequency as the phone number.
During our break, we'll stay live on Facebook for those listeners that are following and watching on Facebook. We'll take some questions there as well.
Yeah.
So
today in history, remember the Maine. None of us are old enough to actually remember the Maine, but the USS Maine, the first battleship that we ever had in our Navy, was sunk. Well, actually, it sunk. But that whole event started the Spanish-American War back in 1898. As it turns out, though, it was supposedly struck by a Spanish mine, and then a war started, and the war didn't last very long. It was only a few months. But as it turns out, in 1976 or 77, the Navy sent out a team of divers to investigate the wreck, and as it turns out, there wasn't a mine involved in that. It was just an accident that the powder room blew up.
a lot of erroneous stories kind of surrounding that particular war. It was kind of supposed to be really
right, and
a
that
fake
was
war.
the narrative that was trumpeted throughout the newspapers in the U.S. Remember the Maine, ginned up a lot of popular support for it, and off we went to war. So there you go.
It's interesting. Before the show, we were kind of talking with Miss Tammy about it being a fake war, and just how some of our wars are started for political reasons, and we wound up with a couple of territories out of that war, and really weren't even supposed to have any casualties.
Puerto Rico and the Philippines and other places like that. So it's pretty interesting. So also today began the airborne operation in the Pacific at Corregidor. And so U.S. Army paratroopers jumped into Corregidor and to approaching the end of World War II, which was an awesome and good thing. And then one of my favorite athletes of all time today is John McEnroe's birthday. So you know who John McEnroe was?
I don't know who John McEnroe was.
What are we going to do with you?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I might have to
So
do some more studying.
John McEnroe was a legendary tennis player back in the 70s, right? He still commentates. He's hilarious. But he had a nasty reputation when he did not like to lose. And when he lost, he would yell and scream and throw his racket. And so when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I played competitive tennis. And I used to play here in Statesville down at Caldwell Park. And I would travel around to different tournaments. And so I modeled my life after John McEnroe, and I was obnoxious.
Now
right?
wait a minute, I've never seen you pitch a fit after losing.
I would pitch a fit. I broke rackets, and I would use John McEnroe lines. One of his his famous lines was he was yelling at a lines judge when a ball was supposed to be out when it should have been in, and he said, "You can't be serious," right? I mean, that was he's yelling at the line judge.
Does he still use that line, Mr.
Oh yeah,
Hammy?
yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I used to use that line all the time, and so anyhow, hopefully after 45 years, I've matured a bit.
So today's also Susan B. Anthony's birthday.
Yep.
Kind of started the women's suffrage movement, and
yeah,
that's
what
really
is,
cool.
what is suffrage, John? What does that mean?
You know,
Are women supposed to? Are they supposed to suffer more?
I think it's more. I think it's more about how they were suffering.
That's right.
And how she was standing up to say, "Hey, we need to have more rights."
Yep.
And really to engage politically and socially that women were equal.
Women
really,
ought to be able
really
to vote,
started
and
that
lo
whole
and behold.
movement, right?
Yep. Women
And
vote.
most interesting, in 1950, she was inducted into the Hall of Fame for Great Americans.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that
and
was
there's
pretty cool.
in there a coin, like a $2 coin.
I don't know if it's $2.
Yeah,
I think
Susan
with
B. Anthony,
inflation, it
$2
might be
coin.
50 cents now. But
Miss
Probably right.
Miss Tammy
Maybe
knows.
right, but I think it's $2.
Yeah, it's like a gold Susan B. Anthony coin. It's like a gold-colored $2 coin.
Yeah.
So it's
one of the most interesting facts of history today that I thought was really cool was in 1768, mustard was first manufactured in America.
Well, that is a useless fact that we all needed to know today.
That's
so
what I thought.
Thank you so much.
I
We
thought,
appreciate
hey,
that.
how important is mustard today after Valentine's Day? It must have been pretty important back then.
I don't know if
Makes me
Valentine's
love-
Day
makes
was a
me love
thing back in.
sandwiches.
I don't think Valentine's Day was a thing back in 1768. I think Valentine's Day might have been created to sell some cards. Although St. Valentine was a pretty awesome guy, and you can read about him in your history Googles if you want to. So,
Yeah, absolutely. One other important fact in history, kind of relating more to our military, is in 1919, the American Legion was formed.
that's all right.
You know where American Legion was formed at?
Statesville, North Carolina.
Paris.
Oh, Paris. Okay.
How could
All
the
right.
American Legion have been started in Paris?
Well, maybe all the fellas were after the war was over. They got together and said
They were
"Hey,
still hanging out in
We ought to
Paris,
hang
right?
out. So another interesting note out of World War I, we have a Sunday school class at First Presbyterian Church here in town that was formed by a group of World War I veterans that came home from the war. And they just celebrated their 100th anniversary a couple years back. I guess it was 1920 when it got started. But the legend has it is that they got back and they wanted to jump into the men's Sunday school class, but the men didn't want them because they were all veterans and they wanted to smoke cigarettes. Right? I don't know if this story's true, but I got this story firsthand, secondhand, thirdhand from previous generations. But we visited. And it's called the Young Men's Bible Class at First Presbyterian Church. They meet every Sunday morning, and once a month they have ham biscuits, and they're still meeting. There's still a pretty good number of them, but the youngest guy in the class is our friend Scott Stevenson, who just turned 59. So
Go Navy.
yeah, right. Go Navy. Yeah, he's our favorite squid. So anyhow, that's a tie-in to the American Legion being formed in
And
Paris.
I think
right?
if I remember right, they have to meet in the boiler room, right?
They have to meet in the boiler room. That's right. It actually is. It's downstairs. They have a really cool place to meet. They got a lot of old 1970s chairs that are super comfortable, but they're definitely 70s looking. And they meet and study the Word of God together. So they're pretty awesome.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to our guest. She's much more interesting.
She's
than all
much
this
more
boring
interesting
history.
than us, that's for sure. Yeah, so hey, we're welcoming Nancy Gass all the way from the big city of Mox Vegas, North Carolina. Nancy and I met in 2014. More about that later. But I want to say hi to everybody at 3rd Special Forces Group that might be tuning in today. We've got a lot of friends that are interested in Nancy and Tammy and I reconnecting. And so probably the most formative time of my military career was serving in that unit. And we've still got a lot of friends from down there that we went through a lot together. And so, Nancy, welcome to Putting the Pieces Back Together. We are so happy it's so good to see you again and reconnect.
So good to see you.
And really glad to have you back, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's awesome. So, hey, will you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and just kind of some of your history and and then we'll jump right into it.
Sure. So I am a solo mom of 2 kids, Charlie and Stella. Charlie is 9 and Stella is 8. And shortly after they had turned 1 and 2 years old, my husband, who was in 3rd group, died in Afghanistan. And that's how we met. And so I was a special agent for 7 years. And my career was my life until I met Jerry, and we fell in love and had 2 kids super fast. And the last 7 years since he died has been just kind of rebuilding.
Yeah.
So
How did you and Jerry meet?
we met at the Doghouse in Fayetteville,
Right.
which is like a dive biker bar that, as it turned out, used to be a wedding chapel. But we had no idea. He didn't ride a bike, and I, was just there to meet friends. I just transferred to Fort Bragg from the New York field office as an investigator, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to settle down in Fayetteville, I have to meet people. And I met him, and the rest was history.
Now, was he in the? So for everybody that doesn't know, when Jerry was a Green Beret, and there's some significant training that you have to go through. Was he in the qualification course at the time you met him?
He was
Okay.
in the Q course
Yeah.
and the medic course. So he was an 18 Delta Special Forces medic, and
Jerry was not your norm. So there's a legend within the Special Forces community about 18 Deltas, which is Special Forces medics, being weird.
yes,
Right? That's kind of the thing. It's like, oh, he's a medic, right? He's a Delta. He's weird. But Jerry was not weird.
Oh, I
So-
think they're all weird, and it's great. I wouldn't have loved him if he were weird.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
weird.
And so Jerry, before Jerry joined the military, did he come in as an X-ray?
He was. He was
Okay.
an X-ray. He was 28 when he joined.
Yeah. So he had been in. Was he in insurance sales? Is
He
that what it
was.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
not sales, but
Yeah.
he was in insurance and nationwide.
Yeah, and he played, and so he went to Gardner Webb, which is a school that folks in North Carolina are super familiar with, and was a pretty fabulous football player there
He
too.
was.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, man. So, well, yeah. So we, life has a way of bringing people together through unfortunate incidents, and so on August 3rd, 2014, I got a call saying that I needed to go to visit you and deliver some tough news to you, and that was a really tough day, but it began sort of we've been friends. Like, we've been catching up with each other for the last 7-8 years now,
Yes.
and
And that was your wedding anniversary.
it was my wedding anniversary, and we got to we went to South Carolina. Jerry, we had his funeral in South Carolina, and I remember we had on all those really tough days. I remember we had an amazing meal at a like a canal side restaurant
Yes.
down there.
I
Yeah.
don't even remember the name of it, but
Yeah.
I'll never forget
Well,
sitting there.
evidently that place burned down. Yeah, about a year or two after, but then they rebuilt it. So, but I just remember, it's funny how you remember certain things, and I just remember having this amazing meal with all of our friends, and through a very difficult time. The Special Forces community, especially, has a really impressive way of coming together and taking care of each other. And did you find that to be the case, in the months leading after we lost Jerry?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Special Forces community is so close and so
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
and loving and supportive. So, and they're very thoughtful and smart in the things that they do. So, for example, my casualty officer was another 18 Delta.
Yeah.
And so just the decision they make in Special Forces to assign someone that's the same MOS is really smart, because I could relate to him.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, absolutely. What were some of the steps that you took, kind of to heal up and walk through all of that?
Well, I think, at first, like the day that you came over on August 3rd, I had been notified of his death the night before. Saturday night, they woke me up and told me. And then when I sat with you on the couch the next day, and we talked about how Jerry and I fell in love, and I was just in shock, and it was like the moment that he died, I died. And I've been rising ever since.
Yeah.
I've been rebuilding and trying to figure out who am I in the wake of that. If I have to live in this world without him, then there has to be a really significant reason, because we never planned to live without each other.
Filling in a couple of blanks here for our listeners. Gold Star families are families that have lost a loved one in combat, and putting the pieces back together oftentimes talks about reintegration and what a soldier might go through, sailor, airman, Marine might go through when they come home. But in so many ways, you lose a loved one in combat, and the family's got a lot of pieces to put back together, and it really takes a community, and really there's no other community that is as unique and strength and diligence as the Special Forces community, and their intentionality to make sure that they care for the families, and that's exactly what's happened. There's a lot of organizations that are out there that support families that have lost loved ones in combat. Particularly, there's a couple there with the Special Forces community. I believe Special Forces Warrior Foundation's one. There's a couple other.
Yeah, Special Forces Charitable Trust.
Special Operations Warrior Foundation.
Yeah,
is
Special
amazing.
Operations Warrior Foundation.
Special Operations Survivors.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Great examples of what it takes and what we should look to emulate to be able to support the families that have lost loved ones in combat or in training accidents. We just a few weeks ago we lost a Navy SEAL finishing up his SEAL training, and so that happens more often than we really realize.
Yeah, the training accidents don't make the news, like it does when we lose somebody downrange. But how have you helped Charlie and Stella, kind of put the pieces together and paint a picture of their dad over the last few years? What are some of the things that y'all do?
I think we've been really fortunate because, they were babies when Jerry died, but being in Special Forces and being, revered at Gardner Webb, like there's been a lot of events and a lot of things done throughout the course of Charlie and Stella's lives to keep his memory and his legacy alive and to honor him. And so they've grown up in their loss. They've grown up being told your dad was a hero. The American flag is your daddy's flag. And, so they've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, and so when they do they tell stories about their dad now?
They do.
Yeah.
They do, especially on certain days like Veterans Day when they have things going on at school, and then the other kids get to hear about Jerry Gass and
that's
who
awesome.
he was.
Well, so on the grief spectrum, right, if you kind of take a look at one of the things that I do is help people process through grief, right? And so you start off with that kind of the shock and loss phase, right, where you go from shock and trauma to numbness to anger and this spectrum of progression through grief, right? And sometimes it takes years, and then ultimately you get to a place of where the loss no longer the happy memories, right, that you have and the joy and the memories and the relationship outweigh the loss, right? Where you become you get to a place of steady state and new normal, and while the loss never goes away, you learn to give back, right? To give back to others, and you've done that, right? You've done that, and would you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and how all that got started, and because it's a really cool story.
Sure. So I work for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which is an amazing nonprofit organization that helps catastrophically injured veterans and families of fallen first responders and Gold Star families that are left behind with young children, surviving spouses with young children. So in 2018, 4 years after my husband died, Tunnel to Towers found me on Facebook. and said that they were sent me a Facebook message that they were starting a new program for Gold Star families, and they wanted to build me and the kids a mortgage-free home.
Wow.
And I was obviously just
They found you. You didn't.
Right.
You didn't seek them out.
yes, which
Yeah.
is one of the most amazing things about T2T is that we are super proactive,
Yeah.
that we go out and we find people. We don't wait for them to come to us. And part of that is the awareness that they won't come to us. These are not people looking for a handout. These are not people looking to be taken care of. These are people who are just strong, prideful people that know they can get through on their own, and they're resilient and courageous, and they just keep going. And so they don't ask for help, and
Yeah.
they're just out there. And so I was one of them. You know, when T2T said what they wanted to do, they said, "Will you accept a home from us?" And I was like,
What?
what? You know, who asks that question? And I had to really think, because I had just done everything on my own. And I said, there's so many other gold stars. There's so many other people out there who are struggling more than me. I'm okay. You know, and they said, yeah, but loss is a really long road. You've been doing it alone for 4 years, and your kids are still only 4 and 5 years old. You have a lot of years left to provide for them as a single parent. And I hadn't really thought of that. I was just surviving day to day. And so I really had to think, like, I can't, you know, and in good faith, I can't say no to such generosity that can help change my kids' lives.
Yeah.
And it was humbling.
Yeah.
So it's so much harder
For those
to.
that don't know, share a little more about how Tunnels to Towers got started, and some of that culture and philosophy that they have to go out and find others comes from where they started from. We share that.
Yes, absolutely. So we are the Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Stephen Siller was an FDNY firefighter that gave up his life in the Twin Towers in the South Tower. And, you know, he was 34 years old. He was a father of 5 children, had a beautiful wife. His oldest, I believe, was 9 years old at the time. His youngest was 10 months. He had everything to live for. And he hadn't had an easy life. You know, he lost his mother when he was 8 years old, his father a year and a half later. So he was orphaned by the age of 10, but he was one of 7 children. And so his 6 remaining siblings, who were much older than him, helped raise him. When he was 10, his next youngest sibling, Frank, who's our unpaid CEO, Frank was 24 years old. And so Frank and his wife and the rest of the siblings raised Stephen, and he grew up and became an FDNY firefighter. And, you know, on the morning of September 11th, he had just come off shift. He had finished his shift, and he was on his way to play golf with his brothers. He did not need to go to ground zero, but when he heard the call on the radio, he turned his truck around, he called his wife Sally, and he said, "Tell my brothers I can't golf today. I'll see you later. Love you." And he went to the mouth of the Battery Tunnel in Brooklyn. He was part of Brooklyn Squad 1, and the tunnel was closed for security reasons, obviously. And so he, you know, had a choice, and he decided to strap on over 60 pounds of his gear and run the 2 miles through the tunnel and up to ground zero, where he ran into the South Tower and gave up his life. And he was one of 343 FDNY firefighters that we lost in the Twin Towers that day. I was in New York City that day. I was 18. It was my first semester in college. And so what he did, you know, is just an example for all of us to emulate on how to live our lives. But it's his 6 remaining siblings that started the foundation in his honor after losing their baby brother. And what they've done in the last 20 years since then is just magnificent.
Now, the organization as a whole is one that's very near and dear to Purple Heart Homes, and really to our family.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Yeah.
When we lost Dale, we spoke a little bit about that last week.
Yeah.
But it was Frank Stiller that came in the picture to help the Beatty family, and
Yeah.
you know, really left in a very dire situation. And the foundation supported them by paying off their mortgage by
Yeah.
completing their mortgage process. And so we'll talk more about that after our break. It's time for a quick break. And Nancy, thank you so much for joining us. And,
Yeah, if you want to
look
call
forward
in
to
after the
hearing more.
break, and if you've got a question for Nancy, that would be great. It's 704-873-1400, and we'll be back in a few minutes. So thanks so much.
We going back live?
Yeah, it's live. Hey, are you guys streaming your
Yes.
signal there?
Yeah.
Can you try getting on Wi-Fi? We're getting a lot of cell phone interference.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is. So, so just go ahead and log into our Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully that'll take care of that data interference.
Yeah.
I don't have to
Do you want me to
stream.
turn my phone off?
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's just with them streaming. I think it's just collecting a lot of data. So we'll see.
Is it
Yeah.
coming
If
through
it's
on
still-
the
I
radio?
keep hearing
It's
it.
just a small little static.
Okay.
Yeah, I just kill mine. There's no need of both of us having it.
Me and the kids have talked about that a lot, what Steven did that day. And because it's hard for me to, if it were
We're still on.
if it were Jerry.
I have a phone stand if you guys want to use
Oh,
one
thank
or
you.
anything. I don't know if that'll sit
Brad's
better.
got his sitting over there. I'm just going
Is
to
that
kill
gonna be all right,
mine.
or is that one fall?
No, it's good.
All right.
And we're not live on Facebook right
We
now.
are, yeah, we
Oh,
are.
we are
Yeah,
live
yeah.
on
Mics are
Facebook.
So
open.
you gotta make sure
Oh,
you're-
good, because I'm not seeing it now.
Oh,
Got any comments you want to make in there?
Yeah.
Little behind the scenes chatter here for our
Yeah.
Facebook
hey, good morning,
followers.
Facebook, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show out here today. So, thank you. We had a little
Pat.
technical
No,
challenge.
maybe
Pat
untie
Shannon's
my
here.
tongue, I'll be better.
Pat Shannon, world famous radio broadcaster and host of the
I'm
Home Ad
just
Show.
not live.
Okay.
Yeah. And I saw we got a couple of folks listening there.
Charlie's watching from the office.
Luis,
That's pretty awesome.
Thanks for all your support.
James Hamby.
Yeah, good morning, Brother James. You
James
must be up
Hamby.
pretty early. I saw maybe you were out in Las Vegas.
He was doing something.
Yeah.
James was running around with some SF guys over in Iraq, so he's a good friend of ours. So
And
that's pretty-
happy anniversary to James and his wife.
oh, it's their anniversary today?
2 days ago, I believe.
Okay.
Yesterday or the day before.
Awesome. Yeah, Dave Childers is watching. So,
Yeah, I think it did too.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm gonna put the commercials back on so that you can just take them off. and everything.
Yeah, but I'm not
They won't
hearing
hear it
any
on the, they won't
static.
hear it on the air. It's just that I have to hear it so I can know when to come back in.
Great.
Great job, Nancy.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Wow. Yeah, so what we'll do when we lead back in, if we never know whether we're going to get calls or not, and so when we lead back in, we'll jump back in on how you got involved with your current role at T2T and go from there. So, you doing good? You got everything?
Yep, I got tissues in case I cry.
I know you're doing great.
You have water.
Doing great.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
James wants to know what I broke. I don't know. I'm liable to break something, but
I think I heard it was a tennis racket.
yeah, I did break a tennis racket. 1977 at Caldwell Park during the Statesville 12 and under championship.
That's funny. Just
Smashed my brand new Bjorn Borg Don A racket.
just before Dale passed, we went golfing with Garrett Garland and General Schwannick, and I was using Dale's golf clubs,
Right.
and Garrett was coaching me. And so Garrett, I didn't break the golf club. Garrett told me, he says, well, let go with your right hand and your follow-through. And so I let go with my right hand and my follow-through,
And
and
it
the
was
golf
gone.
club slid out of my left hand and helicoptered into the lake over the general's head. And he's like, John, I'm not playing golf with you no more.
Yeah, that's like something off
All right,
Caddyshack,
here we come,
man.
guys.
All right. All right. We're
Welcome
back. Yeah.
And for those that are rejoining here or just joining, this is Putting the Pieces Back Together with John and Brad and special guest Nancy Gass from Tunnels to Towers. We'll be taking some live callers here over the next part of the show, and you can call in at 704-873-1400 and be on the air live.
Yeah, well, Nancy was just telling us before the break about how Tunnels to Towers helped her and her family with a mortgage-free home, how they sought her out after the loss of her husband, Jerry, back in 2014 and over in Afghanistan. And so, and now, Nancy, you have a role within the organization, and so you're giving back. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how that all transpired.
Thank you. So in 2018, they gave us a brand new mortgage-free home, and I was just so overwhelmed with like the generosity and the love and the way they were so personal and just being there and taking us in as part of the Tunnel to Towers family. So it really is a family-run foundation, and I was just ready to spread the word and help other people know about this organization and how much they just love and care for everyone that comes in their path. And so in 2020, in the fall, Frank, our CEO, called and said, how would you like to come to Staten Island to T2T headquarters and manage the Gold Star program and help us find other Gold Stars out there and reach out to them and help us provide more homes?
And you said?
I said, huh? I was just so excited. He said, they're very faith-led, and, we follow St. Francis of Assisi, who said, while we have time, let us do good. Yeah. And, I've already was involved with the foundation in any way I could be. And so at our tower climb in Charlotte in 2019, I got a tattoo on my wrist that says, let us do good from St. Francis of Assisi. And so when Frank called me that day, he said, Nancy, this is a big decision. It's a big change for you and the kids. Take 24 hours, sleep on it. And he said, but I think that it's God.
Yeah.
And I think that you're the person for the job. And I looked down at my wrist and saw my tattoo, and I was like, this is God. I don't need to think about this. I know this is what I'm meant to do. And it's been such a blessing for me. There's the only thing better than receiving a mortgage-free home out of love is getting to tell someone else that they're going to receive a mortgage-free
right.
home.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's very powerful.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool things in the Bible that says, this is undefiled and true religion, but ones that take care of widows and orphans, and so, and that's what you guys do, Yeah,
I mean, with Stephen Siller, with our roots of him having been orphaned at the age of 10,
yeah, right.
It's at the heart of everything. And so the Gold Star program in particular, our mission is about providing a long-term stable home environment for the surviving children. And so that's what it's all about.
It's amazing how when he lays something on your heart and you just know that it's the right thing to do, just how much joy you can get out of that. I think that's one of the greatest parts of the work that we all get to be a part of, is being able to help others and then see them grow and turn to help other people in us as well.
Yeah. So your role at T2T now is what?
So I am a Gold Star ambassador and advisor, and it's amazing because it allows me to be there for my kids and as a single parent and focus on them, but also work with the foundation as much as I can to continue to give back and connect with our Gold Stars. And I'm working in the Smart Home program now too. So just connecting with our recipients in any way that I can that can help give them hope, and then also continuing to bring more people into our programs.
So there's another Special Forces soldier that you're getting. Have you already helped him? Is it Tony Kenworthy?
Well, I didn't help Tony, but it's a miraculous story. So Tony was Jerry's partner in sniper school. So Jerry was a medic and a sniper. And in sniper school, Tony Kenworthy was his partner. and they deployed together on the deployment that Jerry died on. And 2 weeks before Jerry died, on my birthday, they were on an operation and hit an IED. It blew out the road, and the turret flew off the vehicle. Tony flew off the vehicle. It landed on him and snapped his neck. And so Tony was paralyzed.
Yep.
And Jerry was there, and Jerry helped save him and lift the turret off of him and treat him. And then he called me that morning. It was 4 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "I just want you to know something happened, but I'm okay. No one died, in case you hear about it, but I can't tell you who." And then about 15 minutes later, he called back and he said, "Okay, his wife's been notified. It's Tony." And Jerry was just heartbroken to see a Green Beret that he loved, one of his best friends, in that situation. And but he couldn't really talk about it, on the deployment and on the phone. And then 2 weeks later, he died. And so Tony and I, had not had contact after that until Tunnel to Towers found me and said what they wanted to do for me. And I was like, "Who are you guys? I don't even know you."
Right.
And you don't know me, and you didn't know my husband. And they said, "Well, so just so you know a little bit about us, one thing we used to do is, and we still do, is build smart homes for catastrophically injured veterans." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I know one. His name's Tony, and I bet he could really benefit from a mortgage-free smart home." And so they said, "We'll reach out to him and tell him about our program, and he can apply." And so I found Tony on Facebook, and I was like, "You're not going to believe this. They want to build me a home, this foundation." And they said they build smart homes. Maybe they can build you a home as well. And Tony said, "Nancy, you're not going to believe this. They found me in ICU and came to my hospital room and told me in 2014 that they wanted to build me a mortgage-free smart home." And I was just flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Has
he moved? He's in that home now?
He's in that home now. He actually just had surgery yesterday.
Yeah.
So he texted me this morning. He's doing well. If he continues to recover, he'll be home from the hospital in about 3 weeks. But he is in the home. The home is beautiful. I was there when they dedicated it to him.
Wow.
He has a daughter that's the same age as my son.
Wow.
And
That is
Tunnel
crazy.
to Towers brought us back together, So,
I've got a picture of Tony. I went down to see him in Tampa. It was a couple months after his injury. It was after Jerry had passed, but I've got a picture somewhere of him in the hallway holding hands with his little one, little itty bitty. It's a remarkable.
She had to be like 2.
Oh
'Cause
yeah,
Charlie was 2.
tiny.
Yeah.
So but those were tough days, and I'm so glad to know that he's doing well, and of course Facebook lets us all kind of keep up with each other. So
and
that's
he's
really
just an example of like what a humble hero these guys are. At his home dedication, he wasn't thinking about himself. He didn't feel like, "Oh, I need a home." He said. He stood up, and his wheelchair rises up so it could put him in a standing position. And he talked about Jerry
Wow.
and his buddy that he lost and what Jerry meant to him, and how I was the one that should be helped because Jerry, it's just, these guys are so humble.
Yeah. So, well, in your work, now as an ambassador and for the organization, is there a particular story that has been, other than Tony, but is there a particular story that's been inspiring to you? Maybe somebody that the organization has helped and that would be interesting to our listeners.
There are hundreds.
Yeah.
T2T has delivered over 452 mortgage-free homes to our nation's most deserving families. And almost every one of them, I could say, would say, "Help someone else. I'm okay." Just recently we received information about someone that was injured, a Marine, in the Kabul bombing on August 26th. And the person that reached out to us didn't know the Marine's name, but was able to connect with the father of the Marine on Twitter who also didn't put his name, but was talking about his son's injuries. And I was able to reach out to the U.S. Marine Corps Wounded Warrior Regiment and find out who the Marine is so we can seek him out and call him and tell him we want to help him. So this is what we do. And I could just go on for days about the people that are part of our family.
Yeah, it is. It does sound like a
Chapa.
really big family.
I see we got a caller calling in here.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the show. Who we got on the line?
Good morning. This is Parker. I just wanted to call in and say thank you to Tunnel and Towers and all that they've done. I really appreciate that they helped out our friend Dale Beatty and his family when that all went down 4 years ago.
Hey.
It's awesome work they do.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Parker. Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate you calling in this morning.
Thank you so much. And there's so many others as well. Recently, Tunnels to Towers helped support another Gold Star family we were doing some work for with Purple Heart Homes, Miss Wheeler, and
Yes.
her and her children, and help put them into a home and just really do some great work there. And so thank you all for that. And, I mentioned earlier it's a little bit of a family. And there's a lot of organizations that come together. One of which both Purple Heart Homes and Tunnels to Towers works with is the Home Depot Foundation, and it's a way of life for them and for all of us, and for Tunnels to Towers to go out and find people that need the help and to be able to support them. And we're just so proud to be able to work alongside you guys.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, so coming up in May, you've got an event that you're going to do, pretty strenuous sounding event. Want to tell everybody a little bit about that? And it's local too, so local to our area here in North Carolina. So
Yes, the Charlotte Tower Climb. So our National Run, Walk, and Climb series has over 80 events annually. More like before COVID, and then there were less obviously during COVID, but we're getting going again. And so the Charlotte Tower Climb is amazing. We climb, this year we're going to be climbing Museum Tower on May 1st. It's 43 floors, and we climb to honor and remember all of our nation's heroes, all of the 9/11 heroes that gave up their lives that day. As I said, 343 firefighters. There was 23 NYPD officers, 28 Port Authority officers, so many first responders, and then all the victims, and then everyone that's gone forward since and given up their lives in the global war on terror. And
so what does the tower climb involve? What is this event that you do?
It is stair climbing.
Okay.
And, we say there's no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs. And I cannot even explain how meaningful and personal it is. We have the badges of the FDNY firefighters that you get to pick one and wear, and you climb in honor of that firefighter.
Awesome.
And so you have their name and their picture. And then as you're going up, you can't help but think about them going up those stairs of the Twin Towers on 9/11 and what they must have thought. And it's just very, very meaningful.
Yeah, another event you all have, it's really became quite large and rivaling the Boston Marathon, and that is the actual Tunnel to Towers run.
Yes, our run following Stephen's footsteps is one of the best things I've ever been involved in. So we have about 35,000 people that do that, and we do it every year in September, and it is so special to retrace his footsteps and just remember him and all of our other
So
heroes.
is that like a 2-mile event that y'all do? Because
It's
he
a
did.
5K.
It's
so
a 5K.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we
But
start at the...
it happens in the location where Stephen did his
Exactly.
run. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Battery Tunnel is the longest underwater vehicular tunnel in North America. And it had never been closed to traffic before. And after Stephen died and they started the foundation, Frank went into Rudy Giuliani's office and said, we want to close down the Battery Tunnel and do a run through the tunnel. And Giuliani was like, are you nuts? Like,
Yeah, we
you
can't
gotta
close
be
the tunnel.
kidding me.
But because
right?
it's you, Frank, I'm going to
It's
do
the
it.
busiest tunnel
Right.
in the free world.
Right.
And Frank was like, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And Giuliani was like, okay.
All right.
You got
Couldn't
it.
say no.
Couldn't say no. And this is why, like you said about Home Depot and GMC, all of our corporate partners are absolutely amazing. And Home Depot nicknamed us the Do Good Mafia of New York because we really are. And it's so great.
Going in, I can see Frank going into the office and twisting the mayor's arm
Yes,
and going, hey, man, we're going to
100%.
make this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is incredible. So May 1st in Charlotte, what tower is it going to be at? What,
Museum Tower, which
Museum
is amazing because we've always been at the Duke Energy building before, which is great, but we would finish in the mechanical room, which is not exciting at all.
Right.
And so this year, for the first time at Museum Tower, we're going to finish at the rooftop terrace, which is absolutely gorgeous.
Wow.
It looks down over the Panthers Stadium
Okay.
and it has a 360-degree view of Charlotte.
and how many floors are people going to climb?
It's 43,
43
which is
floors.
nothing.
I just got to
So-
interject here. For years we think about New York and just being, super great Americans and people that are very active and supporting and very philanthropic. But just hearing about this Charlotte tower climb, I just got to put the challenge out. We've got to show that the Charlotte Mafia can
Yeah, that's
really
right.
come together and support this event and
Yeah,
make this
I'm-
happen. There's a lot of folks here in North Carolina that have received support from Tunnels to Towers, and there's a whole lot more that need support. With Fort Bragg right here, we're really an all-American state, and we need this type of support. And so I challenge all those listeners out there, get 10 of your friends together, share the event, go make the event, go climb the tower. Experience what it's like and support. Get out there and make a difference in somebody's life.
We'll put the website up for people to sign up for the event May 1st in Charlotte at Museum Tower.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for an organization that's helping your local state and community, like this is it because we have 27 Gold Star families alone in our program in the state of North Carolina. As of yesterday, we had 152 Gold Star families around the country.
Okay.
And so the impact on North Carolina with Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune being here is ginormous. And that's just Gold Stars, not to even begin to talk about the veterans we've helped and the first responder families.
Yeah. So what's the website where people can sign up to? Do they just go to T2T?
T2T.org is
Okay.
our main website. And if you go to on the top our programs and then the National Run Walk Climb series,
Yep.
then you'll be able to see the Charlotte Tower Climb and all the other events we have around the country.
Well, I am just I'm throwing down the gauntlet for everybody in F3 Nation around our community in Charlotte and Cornelius and Huntersville and Statesville to sign up and go do this May 1st. Make this your workout. So F3 is Fitness Fellowship and Faith. It's a men's grassroots men's fitness and leadership organization that is very impactful here in our area. And so I'm throwing the gauntlet down and challenging those guys to go do that.
Let me just remind our listeners one more time too. This is really personal, close to home, and it's about helping family. And you guys have helped our family,
Yep.
and we're appreciative of that. And so, for those that might be unsure of how to support or where to support, know that you can support Gold Star families like the Beatties and be able to help make a difference in their lives when they've experienced loss and pain and suffering. And our heart continues to go out to all of them.
Yeah. Well, I got one more question for you. So before we close out today, if you had a message for someone out there that's in the midst of a life challenge like you went through, what do you say to them?
There are so many things that I want to say. There isn't time for it all. But I would say give yourself grace and have self-compassion because we're all out there struggling with so many things before you go through, without going through a traumatic loss. And so when you've gone through a traumatic loss or a traumatic event, it just shakes you to your core and it changes everything. And it takes a long time to recover. And so don't ever give up.
Yeah.
Remember, when emotion is high, logic is low.
Yeah.
And when you go through a traumatic loss, emotion is high for a really long time. And
Yeah.
so it's important to remember that. So,
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, we appreciate that very much, and I know that through my work here, just something that I'm really passionate about is working with combat veterans and helping them overcome what they have experienced in their combat tours and with our first responders and what they experience on a day-to-day basis.
Can I say something about
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Because I was speaking to a veteran who lost both of his legs in a bombing in Afghanistan a couple days ago. And I'm telling you, Brett, these guys, they just want to serve others.
Yeah.
It is so hard for them to need help or to accept help.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just out there. And so, we have to connect with each other and be honest. And, this program you said today was about living courageously and about courage in the face of loss. And I would say it's not just loss, but it's, the loss of their legs, all different kinds of traumas that we go through. And being vulnerable and open with each other and having honest conversations and accepting help is huge.
And that's the one thing that has made the trauma recovery program that we have, we call Reboot, that's been successful, is it has reconnected veterans and first responders and others who've been through trauma, reconnects them with a team, and they don't live in isolation anymore.
This one in particular, he's been living in isolation for 13 years. And I said, he said, there's someone who needs a home more than me. And I said, it's not just about a home. I said, we have a huge network of our veterans in our T2T family that have homes from us that get to connect with each other because of this. He said, I'm part of the American Legion. I said, how many people do you know in the American Legion who are your age, who've been through a catastrophic injury like you have, traumatic brain injury, all the things that go along with it? Not many. So it's not just about homes with T2T. It's about connections.
Well, and that's
So
what we
true.
always say at Purple Heart Homes. It's not about the repairs that we do on someone's home or a new home that we build for them, but it's about the person that lives in the home and the community that they're in.
More often than not, the way that the military trains us, it's about taking care of the man or woman to your left and your right. It's about adapting and overcoming. It's about the mission and everything but yourself. It's about, a selflessness. And then on the flip side of that, the family is told you've got to be, self-sustaining. You've got to take care of the house. You've got to, man the home front. You've got to do all these things. And so then when you have this experience of loss or catastrophic injury, suddenly everything is changing, but you're still disciplined and routine to do it all yourself. And that's really what, again, the show is about. It's about how can the community come together to be able to support, what role do we play as individuals, and how do we support organizations that provide us a pathway to support, whether it's Gold Star families, catastrophically injured veterans, service-connected disabled veterans, children of veterans needing to go to school, all different types of support and ways that we can be involved. And none of us can do it on our own. Whether it's the injured vet or the Gold Star family, we need the support out there of the community.
It's all about relationships.
Yes, it is.
Johan Hari said the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nancy, we can't
great.
thank you enough for being here today. It was such a pleasure hearing your story and hearing the story of Tunnel Towers. And
extremely inspiring.
yeah,
Thank you
absolutely.
For
Yeah,
your
I'm-
strength and what you're doing to continue to give back.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
ready
thank
to
you
face
for
my
what you
day.
guys are doing.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's so good reconnecting with you, and all our best to those beautiful kids of yours, and we're very thankful. So
So, Chap,
we got a big show next week.
yeah,
coming,
next
huh?
week this is going to be one of my top 10 favorites. Of course, I get to talk about my dart. Kind of interesting.
A Dodge dart, not
my
like
Dodge
a
dart.
dart you throw at a board.
Yeah,
right?
some funny stories there. One little fact in history was in 1936, Germany announced the manufacturing of the Volkswagen.
All right.
I wonder if they have headers on Volkswagens.
I don't know. I had a '74 Super Beetle. It was awesome. So.
Maybe we can see if George can build some custom headers for
Well,
a
who's
Super
our
Beetle.
guest next week? Who is it?
So it's Junior from Cook's Custom Headers, and excited to have him. And he's bringing a special guest as well, a veteran that has been working there with him for a few months now,
And a Green Beret, I
yeah,
think.
and a Green Beret. And
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Looking forward to that show, and thank you for all of our sponsors out there, and Welcome Home Vets, Lake Mountain Coffee, fellow veteran and friend Dr. Grant Campbell, and the coffee shop, Richard's Coffee Shop, Welcome Home Veterans, is a great place to connect. And as we talk about families and getting to know veterans and getting to know family members of veterans, encourage people to check out Mooresville, North Carolina, Richard's Coffee Shop, Welcome Home Vets, Living Veteran Museum.
Yeah.
Lots of ways you can learn, connect, and see folks that are doing something, getting involved, and looking for ways that they can help.
Yeah, it's not just for veterans. It's for anybody. You go by and take a look at that place. There's some amazing people that hang out there, especially on Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. That is a big to-do down there. And so please go check out Richard's Coffee Shop. It's awesome.
And don't forget to check out T2T.org.
Yep.
I believe that's right,
Yep,
Nancy.
that's correct.
T2T.org,
Thanks, Nancy.
Tunnels to Towers. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.